Run from it. Destiny arrives all the same. And now it's here. Or should I say, I am here.
Welcome back to MAGA News, ladies and gentlemen. Amazon employees are running for cover as ICE and FBI agents raid Amazon warehouses. But before we get started, hit that like button and subscribe right now. I hope you enjoyed our video introduction featuring our President Donald Trump slamming the deep state and their corrupt and rigged system. This Amazon raid going down is big, because these dangerous gang members can wind up at pretty much any business. Does it matter where? New York or in California? And while an alleged raid at one of Amazon's warehouses was probably shocking to everyone inside, immigrant advocates are outraged, saying workplace raids have nothing to do with deporting the high-level criminals, unless, of course, those criminals are doing whatever they can to hide in plain sight. This is an exclusive video of federal agents swarming into a Washington Heights building hours after a similar sting in the Bronx. A couple dozen arrests made in the early morning hours across the city, and that number growing. It's leading to fear in these communities. It's not only palpable, but it's starting to actually become more and more visible. There have been raids in nearby Newark, New Jersey, at a wholesaler fish there, and then we saw most recently a raid at the Bronx Terminal Market. Massive raids are also taking place in California's Sanctuary City. Antonio and Sarahi own 2 businesses and employ nearly 30 people. Some of them are also undocumented. We're entrepreneurs. We're working hard. We don't have any criminal records. We're following the rules. We're making the community a better place, a safe place. Do you really believe they're the same? No, absolutely not. That's why we're prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats. And we have given ICE instructions: when you look for the bad guys and you find others with them, you will arrest them too, because they're in the country illegally in violation of the law. The fastest growing scam of 2025 is sweeping across the country. So an alleged ICE raid took place at an Amazon warehouse, with a manager at the facility warning the migrants it might not be the last. And even though the news outlet on this says they can't confirm all the details, what nobody in New York or California wants to admit is that if ICE does go and raid a warehouse and they take dangerous criminals and get them out of the country, they've done everyone here a big favor. Whereas according to the borders, our ICE doesn't just raid random businesses. And if ICE gets a tip that a criminal is hiding at or being aided by a business, they may locate individuals in the company or that criminal who've got ties to them are assisting them and could also be dangerous. And the reason critics are so upset about this is there are over 400,000 people unlawfully living in New York City, many of whom have jobs that these businesses rely on. Some defenders of illegal immigration to claim ICE's enforcement actions could crash the local economy. As these immigrants are taking jobs, Americans refusing to work is an extreme statement for sure, as one has to wonder if it's possible zero legal New York or California residents will work in air-conditioned convenience stores or allegedly at places like Amazon, especially when a 2022 study revealed 17% of workers under the age of 24 want jobs but can't find them. And that brings us to the real reason why workplace raids are an important part of keeping the country both safe and prosperous. Allowing a massive number of people to illegally live in your city and get jobs, they're just empowering the criminals who connect them with these jobs in the first place. We're talking gang members and the businesses that prey upon these folks who, even though they claim they're making the world a better place, there is no such thing when they underpay and exploit their workers. Now, of course, it's very hard to blame individual workers for taking jobs that are offered to them if they're here in need to feed themselves, but the businesses hiring these people instead of Americans are preying on their desperate situation, taking advantage of people who have zero workplace protections like guaranteed minimum wage and labor safety laws. Plus, as you're about to see, when someone gets an illegal job at a legitimate-looking business, they're often only able to do it with the help of criminals who've embedded themselves in sanctuary cities. So here, we've got a whole bunch of local businesses. Some are part of a larger corporate entity, others are small independent shops. They might only have 1 or 2 locations. And according to the news, some of these independent places have admitted to hiring people who are unlawfully in the country, and some of these individuals have figured out how to get jobs at larger corporate chains that might have a more thorough employment vetting process. And now, workers at pretty much every business are on edge, thinking that at any moment, ICE agents could walk in the door, looking for somebody who's dangerous. So this woman and her husband, they seem like nice, hard-working people, but they're wrong. They're not playing by the rules because it's illegal to hire people off the books. That's a crime, and legitimate businesses don't have that luxury. And not only hiring people off the books empower criminals, they're not making their community better because anyone illegally working at their air-conditioned restaurant or convenience store has a job that a law-abiding resident of that community can't have. But before we get into how people might be able to illegally get jobs at a place like Amazon or Target, it's important to understand how any business illegally employing people hurts their community in ways many people don't even realize. Because companies who do this, they don't just take away legitimate jobs from legitimate legal residents of their community. They also deprive legitimate business owners of the opportunity to compete in a fair marketplace. Think about that. How do you open a legitimate restaurant or cafe next to one that's not playing by the rules and has lower labor costs than you do? Your prices are automatically going to be higher than theirs because you pay more for labor than they do, and in a tough economy, whoever's got the lowest prices, they're the ones who are going to win, and everybody else is going to lose. And if people are working at a place in an off-the-books manner, they're not benefiting either. Sure, they might have a job, but it exists in the shadows, and these people don't benefit from any of the worker protections which exist to stop predatory businesses from harming their workers in the first place. Living in a country where the laws that protect others don't apply to you is not the American dream instead. It just means that you're being taken advantage of. But most importantly, where do we find most victims of trafficking? Work sites. They have to pay the cartels off to force the labor situations over when victims comes here. You know, this is something that many people have never considered. The fact that when ICE raids these businesses, they find trafficking victims that totally goes against the narrative that ICE is going into these places and pulling out people who wish they were there, especially when they're only going to businesses based on tips about ongoing criminal activity and the presence of dangerous individuals. They're not going to places where the only thing possibly going wrong are that otherwise law-abiding people are working illegally. And in New York and California especially, the signs of trafficking are everywhere. Literally, if you go to the bus terminal, a location where many asylum seekers and recent immigrants first arrive, you'll see signs warning people about this, which wouldn't be there if it wasn't a problem. New York alone is home to a $4.4 billion shoplifting economy, and when you walk through a store in the city, you'll see most products behind plexiglass. And although this is the obvious result of decriminalizing thefts that are non-violent and under $1,000 in value, this type of arrangement allows low-level petty thieves to do this as a full-time job, which is why you have so many open-air theft markets throughout the city where people are just reselling stolen goods on a sidewalk somewhere. But even if a person steals just long enough to get a fake ID so they can work at Amazon or Uber or Target or any business that actually checks, they're going to need a real ID and a valid social security number when paying taxes. Well, maybe not. And the way these criminal gangs help people get an ID like that threatens every single person in our country.